We are at a recruitment fair for ICE. I want to talk to folks and see who wants to be a deportation officer and why.
I'm a college student, recently graduated.
Former flight attendant.
I did 8 years in the Marine Corps.
Doors haven't even opened yet, and already there's a line of more than 100 people waiting to get in. What were the attractions of working for ICE?
I'm very patriotic.
You know, guarding America, guarding the homeland.
When I saw Uncle Sam pointing that finger, I just had it in my heart. And you're thinking, look at this guy, he's an immigrant. He wants to become a deportation officer. Doesn't make any sense to you, makes 100% sense to me.
Those are some of the thousands of Americans who showed up at the Department of Homeland Security's ICE Career Expo in Texas. They're being offered $50,000 signing bonuses, $60,000 in student loan reductions, and up to 25% overtime rates to defend the homeland. That's what they're saying. Joining us now, New York Times Washington correspondent Nicholas Nehemas, who you just saw talking to people inside of that expo in Arlington, and staff writer for The Atlantic and host of the David Frum Show, David Frum. All right, so Nicholas, tell us about the folks that showed up to get a job with ICE.
Well, it was more than 3,000 people, and I think the crowd would have been surprising. It was very diverse, African-American, Hispanic, mainly male. It was people who were both talking about defending the homeland from an invasion, which is the rhetoric the administration is using to talk about immigration. And also people who are attracted by the consistency of a steady job and some of those really intense financial incentives that you laid out.
There have been so many images of ICE, separating families, breaking car windows. There have been violent interactions. There have been tearful interactions online. They've been covering social media. Have any of those been a turnoff to the folks you were talking to? Did they express any hesitation, or were they something that animated them, motivated them to go to the expo?
I think that ICE's rhetoric has been really effective. Something that I heard from a lot of attendees was that they wanted to get rid of the worst, which is word for word a phrase that ICE uses to describe the immigrants it is removing. And when I would tell them the number of people who are being detained and deported who don't have criminal records, a lot of the folks simply didn't believe me and said it was fake news.
That's interesting. David, what do you think of that?
Look, I salute anyone who chooses a career in public service and public safety. But what is happening with ICE, this is just something to keep in mind at that job fair, is ICE is being built up to be the largest law enforcement agency in American history, at the fastest pace in American history, with some of the lowest standards in any law enforcement agency out there, with some of the highest pay of any of the law enforcement agencies out there. So big, fast, low standards, high pay. This is a way to get a big agency very fast, but it's not necessarily a way to get a quality and reliable agency. Law enforcement starts with law. And one of the questions you want to ask is, are you hiring people who are committed to enforcing the law, even when the law goes against the government? Are you hiring people who know what the law is and who are doing this job for the right reasons over the long haul?
So let me ask on standards and the hiring process. This was not in your piece, Nicholas, but I'm hoping that you can tell me if there are any guidelines that you were able to get out of ICE. One ICE applicant told the Washington Post, "I keep seeing these memes where Indians are bragging about taking our tech jobs. So I said, oh yeah, well, I'm going to go work with these guys that are going to arrest you, slam your face on the pavement, and send you home." Number one, Nicholas, did you encounter anybody who sounded like that? Does that seem like an anomaly to you? And secondly, if somebody expresses a desire for violence like that, is ICE going to hire them?
I did not hear that kind of violent sentiment expressed. I would say I did, with several other reporters, visit ICE's training academy in Glencoe, Georgia. And as a potential example of what David is talking about, they are shortening the training from 13 weeks to 8 weeks. Now, ICE says they're streamlining it, rather than shortening it. shortening it. Primarily, what they're getting rid of is a Spanish language instruction class because they have translators. But there's definitely a big change in how quickly the agency is moving to get deportation officers out onto the street.
It's interesting, David, the way that they're thinking about immigration, or they're reframing the conversation around immigration. Immigrants are no longer people who are looking for a better opportunity. They are coming here to commit violence, to steal from us, to harm American citizens, to mock us, as that one person told the Washington Post. It's reframing how Americans see people who are trying to cross the border, trying to immigrate here.
Yeah. Well, look, the United States has had an immigration problem over the past 4 years. President Biden did relax a lot of the border enforcement in his first year. It was a terrible mistake, and the numbers got enormous. And now the United States needs to do something about that. But you need to understand what is the problem and what are you dealing with. If you had a problem that your interstate highways were too choked with traffic, you would understand no one can drive if the highway is choked with traffic. You need to find some way to reduce the traffic on the highways. But that doesn't make the motorists criminals. And it doesn't mean that the answer to it is to slam motorists face into the sidewalk. What you need to do is think about toll, maybe you add a lane, maybe you impose a toll, maybe you impose traffic calming measures. But most of the people who are coming to the United States without authorization, I mean, they're breaking rules, and you want to send them home, and you want to encourage them to go home, but they're not bad people doing bad things. And when you create that false impression, you create an agency that ought to be enforcing labor laws against employers and turn it to this kind of RoboCop agency where they think that having a bunch of cops tackle a DoorDash driver and throw him to the sidewalk is some way of enforcing the laws that need to be enforced.
Yeah, and just a note on what that guy told the Post. Listen, tech jobs, people that are taking tech jobs are coming here on visas. They're coming here to work for big tech companies. They're not, generally speaking, people who are just crossing the border. That's just not the same kind of immigrant. Anyway, all right, Nicholas Nehemas, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing us your reporting. Thank you for allowing us to use some of your interviews and your video. We appreciate it. Thank you to the New York Times as well. David Frum, always wonderful to have you. Thank you for joining us also.